Guys, Leon Edwards came out and said Khamzat Chimaev is the biggest fight he can get right now, but he's nothing special and he can't wait for December 19th. Does he derail the hype train? We're talking about it right now. What's up, Barn Hill family? Welcome back to the channel.
Yo.
So, Nick, it seems that Leon Edwards has a bit of a chip on his shoulder right now. He's a slight underdog in the betting odds for this fight with Khamzat Chimaev. A lot of people are picking against him, saying that the young Russian superstar, or rising superstar, I should say, is going to make easy work of him. And he's saying, look, I've been on 9-fight win streaks in my life as well. I've got 8-second knockouts myself as well. This guy's nothing special. And as Khabib said, I'm going to smash your boy, Dana.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's really easy for a lot of people to just go ahead and chalk it up as he's got a chip on his shoulder, and he would even be right to have a chip on his shoulder. But I listened to him on Ariel Helwani's show, and he just seems like such a nice guy. And it really wasn't his fault. If you go back and listen, you know, to the show that he did with Ariel, he was scheduled to fight a week before the lockdown started, and that just, you know, the lockdown screwed up a lot of people's plans for the year. And then, you know, they were going to throw him in against Usman, but they gave it to him on short notice. He thought, if I'm going to fight for a belt, I want to have a full fight camp for it. So technically he did back out of that, but you know, put almost anybody else in those same shoes, and they're going to do the same thing he did. So you know, you listen to him, and he's a guy that, for the first time, we're listening to somebody who's truly not afraid of Khamzat Chimaev. You know, a lot of the people, it kind of started with Gerald Meerschaert, and I know that was his last fight, but, you know, you kind of could tell that Gerald was almost putting on a fake tough persona for Khamzat.
Yeah.
You know, like, the other guys didn't really know about him. It was on such short notice, just get in there, okay, this guy kind of looks like Khabib, and then, you know, it's worse than it seemed. But Gerald was like, you know, I think he was masking that he was actually a little bit intimidated. I genuinely don't think Leon Edwards is afraid of Khamzat Chimaev or thinks that Khamzat is in a class above him.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And you touched on something so spot on there with the Gerald Meerschaert. There's certain times with fighters that you can see as they're talking and sounding, and the words that are coming out of their mouth are uber confident. The body language and the way they're conveying it tell a different story. And it almost seems like they're trying to hype themselves up to feel confident. And it's a bit of fake it till you make it, if you will. That is not what's going on with Leon Edwards. Leon Edwards is not afraid of Khamzat Chimaev. And quite frankly, he has no reason to be.
No.
He's at the top of the heap. He's been in there with Kamaru Usman. He's been in there with the best guys in the division. He is one of the best guys in the division. He's a complete fighter. He's well-rounded. He may lose the fight. Okay, fine. He might get bested by a guy who's on his way to superstardom. But this is no, you know, just throw me out there and make a fool of me because the UFC brass is mad at me. I'm coming to win this fight. I believe I have all the skills in my arsenal to win this fight. And me and my team believe that we're going to do just that.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be a very competitive fight. And every time Khamzat steps in the ring,
we always say that.
We always say this is going to be his toughest matchup. I do think that is the case, and that's how the UFC likes to do it. They like to build you up and test you with harder tests each time and each time. And Leon Edwards obviously is one of the toughest tests in all of MMA right now. And, you know, before people like to point the fingers at him and go, you know, Leon's ducking Kamaru Usman, Colby Covington, all these people. You go back to 2019, 2018, he was trying to fight all those guys. He was calling out Colby Covington, calling out Kamaru Usman, calling out all these people. And, you know, for somebody who is emerging but hasn't quite caught on with the fans, he's doing everything he can to try to get to that title shot. It's very hard. The 170 division kind of does have a lot of stars right now, and they're all kind of coming into full form in the past couple of years. You know, Colby Covington really found his stride with the character that he is. Jorge Masvidal obviously had a breakout year. And Kamaru Usman in his own right, you know, he's not quite the pay-per-view draw that he'd like to be, but he is becoming
a dominant champion, though.
Dominant champion, and there are more people in the world that know about him than they did 3 and 4 years ago. So I think that Leon is doing as well of climbing a ladder in a logjam division that anybody else is doing.
Yeah, I agree. And, it like I said in the beginning, it did seem a little frustrating. And that's why I always love to see a fighter come out and do interviews and go on aerial. I'm like, if you have the ability to make a phone call or shoot a text to Chael Sonnen or Ariel and say, I have a story to tell, I want to get it out there. I feel like if Leon did anything wrong, it was that he didn't get in front of this story. He allowed himself to look like the guy that was ducking fights, where he had a seemingly perfectly good explanation for it. Right. The COVID pandemic hit, all the lockdowns happened, all the fights got canceled. Yeah, you want to throw me back in there with Kamaru on short notice. If you get 2 cracks at the champion and you lose both of them, you're not getting a third.
Right.
So I understand why you wouldn't want to get back in there with him right away. And so and I know that first fight against Kamaru was not for the title, but nevertheless, it's a loss.
Right,
so,
right. It always goes when you have 2 fighters that have fought before, and the second fight just so happens to be for the title. It's kind of it's kind of the same thing. It's like, well, you fought once before. We don't need to see you guys fight 3 times specifically for the title. We just need to see you guys fight 3 times or 2 if that's the case. If it's 1-1.
Right. And I wanted to bring up something interesting he said in another interview. He said that he wanted the Jorge Masvidal fight. Mm-hmm. He believes that Jorge should have to answer for the 3-piece Minnesota. Yeah. And it's kind of hard to disagree with that.
Right.
If you're going to carry around the BMF belt and then you roughed up a guy backstage and he wants to come and say, hey, as your analogy last week, meet me in the parking lot of the schoolyard at 3:00. We're fighting. The BMF can't really turn that down. He's got to rise to the occasion. So he said that, Jorge was the fight he wanted. Doesn't seem like it's going to happen right now. And in his opinion, this is the second biggest fight he could get right now. So do you agree with that? And 2, if that's the case, that says something about Khamzat's star power, even though he's very new to the UFC.
Yeah, and listen, I think that both of these guys, Khamzat Chimaev and Leon Edwards, both have earned a spot on the BMF guest list that we talked about last week.
Our list is getting longer and longer.
And that's the thing is there's tough guys in this, but they're few and far between.
Yeah.
There are tough guys in the UFC, but there's a lot of fake tough guys as well, and you just got to kind of sift through them, and eventually you find the ones. But anybody who's willing to step in against a guy who is virtually unknown, he isn't ranked, been running through 2 divisions right now, 2 competitive divisions, and only been hit twice in 3 fights, and it has done those 3 fights in 66 days, 2 of which in a matter of 10 days. If you're willing to step in against him on kind of short notice, you're on the list. And then obviously, for all the reasons I just laid out, that Khamzat Chimaev, the reason he's had a breakout year, that kind of puts him on the guest list of BMF as well.
Yeah. The crazy thing about what you said being hit twice, he hasn't, in the last fight, he only needed to throw 1 punch.
Right.
And then the other fights, it was just a domination. So when you see, and what you said about the fake tough guys, all the fake tough guys show up after a fighter gets somewhat exposed.
Yeah.
You see a great champion who seemingly can't be beat, and then all of a sudden somebody makes him look human. You saw it a bit with Al Iaquinta and Khabib when Al was able to hang in there and go the distance. Everybody was raising their hands saying, I think I want to take a crack at Khabib. Now, Khabib proved that, he can evolve and continue to get better. But the point being that there's no thing or tape or ideas or history that you can look up really on Khamzat Chimaev that tells you, okay, he likes to engage with an inside leg kick and then throw a power 2, and then he's moving to the left, and he's going to jab this way, or he's going to try to give you this look or this feint. When you go out there and you throw 1 punch and the punch knocks the guy out, and that's what happened in his last fight, that doesn't really give you anything as an opponent to say, he might do this combo. He might start with that. He has a tendency here to do this.
Yeah.
None of that.
Yeah, well, Leon Edwards has a good team surrounding him, and he did say that they've gone back, watched all of Khamzat's fights in the UFC, as well as all the ones that they found that were on YouTube, that were in other promotions, smaller promotions as he was coming up. And believe it or not, they were able to find some tendencies that he does.
Is that right?
Every fighter has rhythms. Every fighter has a cadence. They have things that they like and prefer to do to their opponents and stuff like that. So while he said it's not a wide range of knowledge and details that he's able to break down in with his team, there is something there. And so they do get a little snippet, and thank God for the internet and thank God for the 3 fights that he's already had in the UFC. But, Khamzat's definitely one of those guys that is making it difficult to fight him because he's not giving you much in these competitions. What are you gonna learn from when he's smashing somebody like Rise McKee in his second fight of the UFC? It's like, okay, yeah, like he likes to take you down. I could watch Khabib's fight, but a lot of people know that what Khabib's doing is very similar to Khamzat. It's not that difficult, but it's just nearly impossible to stop. So it's not like there's a magic trick that they're doing there. They're tying your legs up. They're using their head and their arm to basically lock you in totally on the ground and make you immobile. And then eventually they're working on gathering your bottom hand, leaving you with one hand to defend, and then punching you and basically ending the fight that way. So Leon Edwards does have a tough task ahead of him. When it comes down to inactivity versus activity, I think that does usually play into the more active fighter's hand. I don't know how Leon's going to do after a year off of fighting. It sometimes doesn't work well for people. Thiago Santos is a great example. Just after taking 15 months off, he looked good, but he was gassing. Yeah, and I don't know if that's going to be the case for Leon Edwards. He's a little smaller. He's known to be a pretty good conditioned fighter. I'm eager to see if the activity of the past 3-4 months for Khamzat Chimaev is going to work in his favor against Leon Edwards. Leon, he is in a pretty strictly locked down country of England, and he said that it actually is like a blessing in disguise because his camp went from being a regular guy on the gym mats with a bunch of other fighters and even some people that aren't fighting, but they like the sport, they like to train, to all focused on him. So he called it sort of like a boxing training camp. And I think that is the way to take a fight camp, especially a high-level fighter. Take it, get a little bit greedy, get a little bit selfish fighter, with it, and bring in the right people, pay the right people, and then that ensures you stay safe. You're not grappling and striking with people that want to just beat up or try to get lucky on scoring on like a UFC fighter or a champion or something like that. So I think that is going to work out for Leon Edwards, and it's going to be a positive thing for him. But I think we have a hell of a scrap on our hands.
I agree. Yeah, and I think that personalized camp, there is something to be said for it. Obviously, you have different methods and ways of becoming UFC champion. One is the way of the Jackson Wink, the AKA, the American Top Team. You're in there and you're with the best guys every day, and it's a big camp and you're all training together. And then there's the way that Conor does it, which is he kind of isolates himself. He goes and grabs Dylan Dennis. He grabs some strikers that are similar to the guys he's fighting. If it's a wrestler, he's bringing in some Olympic wrestlers, and they kind of insulate themselves. And so COVID has kind of made everybody's camp like right. the way Conor does it. And I think there's merits been upsides and downsides to both. All I know is I'm super excited to see this matchup. I do think Leon is going to come in there and feel a little bit of pressure, have a little bit of chip on his shoulder, and fight that way. Is it enough to get the job done? Who knows? Yeah. But all I know is this is going to be a good fight, and you're not going to take Leon out with one punch.
Right. As a fan, I'd be down to watch this one tomorrow. But as somebody who likes to make predictions on fights, I'm glad that we have about a month to chew on it and dissect it and let it sit in our stomachs for a little while. And we'll make a predictions on this one maybe in a couple of weeks or something like that. Maybe about a week before the fight, because then right now I don't know who's going to win this fight. By the time the fight rolls around, I'm still not going to know, but I might have an opinion.
Or a hypothesis.
Yeah, exactly. I got to check the odds.
Guys, I think it's minus 150 for Chimaev, plus 130 for Edwards. So he's a slight, it's almost a pick 'em, but he's a slight underdog. Not making much money
either way.
Yeah. But if you believe in Edwards, you can more than double your money.
There you go.
So Anyways, guys, let us know in the comments, who do you think is going to win this fight? Is this the biggest fight that Leon could get right now, shy of Jorge Masvidal? Let us know. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and check us out where you listen to podcasts. We're on audio, guys. Thanks.
Peace.